हेलो बच्चों, कैसे हो? आपका स्वागत है त्रिपाण स्टडी सेंटर में। आज जो हम करने जा रहे हैं क्लास 10th एनआईएस बोर्ड का जो है चैप्टर नंबर 12। ये चैप्टर जो है सोशल साइंस का है, यानी सामाजिक विज्ञान का है, जिसमें आज हम करेंगे पीपल्स पार्टिसिपेशन इन द डेमोक्रेटिक प्रोसेस। इसका अर्थ यही हुआ कि जनता की सहभागिता तथा लोकतांत्रिक प्रक्रिया काफ़ी महत्वपूर्ण रहने वाला है, क्योंकि इसमें हम जो है पब्लिक ओपिनियंस के बारे में विस्तार पूर्वक चर्चा करेंगे। और ये टॉपिक कई मायने में हर एक क्लास के बच्चों के लिए महत्वपूर्ण है, चाहे वो यूपी बोर्ड के बच्चे हो, चाहे बिहार बोर्ड के बच्चे हो, चाहे सीबीएसई के हो, चाहे एनआईएस बोर्ड के बच्चे हो। सभी बच्चों के लिए काफ़ी महत्वपूर्ण चैप्टर रहने वाला है। इवन कि जो बच्चे कंपटीशन की तैयारी कर रहे हैं और करने का सोच रहे हैं, तो उनके लिए ये टॉपिक काफ़ी महत्वपूर्ण रहने वाला है, क्योंकि इसमें विस्तार पूर्वक जो है हर बात पे हम चर्चा करेंगे। लेकिन आपको पता है, चर्चा करने से पहले एक बात जो मैं सदैव कहता हूँ, जिसको आपको सोचना भी चाहिए, विचार भी करना चाहिए, इवन अमल भी करना चाहिए, वो ये है कि जब भी वीडियो देखिए पूरा देखिए, क्योंकि अधूरा जानकारी सदैव खतरनाक होता है। साथ में एक इंपॉर्टेंट बात ये भी रहता है, अगर आप पहली बार वीडियो देख रहे हो तो लाइक शेयर सब्सक्राइब करना मत भूलना, क्योंकि दोस्तों लाइक कीजिएगा तो बनाने वाले का मनोबल बढ़ता है, सब्सक्राइब कीजिएगा तो इससे ये होता है कि जब भी मैं कोई वीडियो डालूंगा उसका नोटिफिकेशन आपको समय रहते मिल जाएगा। और देखिए, शेयर का मतलब ये होता है कि आपके थ्रू ना जाने किन बच्चों को हेल्प मिल जाए, ये आप भी नहीं जानोगे, इसलिए जो है आप शेयर जरूर करो, ठीक है। व्हाट्सएप स्टेटस पे भी लगाओ। दोस्तों, एनआईएस सेंटर जो है कई मानने में बहुत से बच्चों के लिए हेल्पफुल है, चाहे वो 8th क्लास हो, 9th 10th 11th 12th हो, चाहे वो एनआईएस बोर्ड के बच्चे हों, ठीक है, चाहे बीए एमए के बच्चे हो, सभी क्लासों के लिए कुछ ना कुछ जो है त्रिपाण सेंटर में उपलब्ध है। तो इसलिए आपके लिए ज़रूरी है कि आप सब्सक्राइब करके इसको चैनल को जो है सेव कर लो, नहीं तो बाद में अगर रिसर्च करोगे तो शायद आपको ये चैनल प्राप्त ना हो। तो इसलिए सोचना नहीं, विचार नहीं करना है, सब्सक्राइब करके जो है अपने पास सेव करना है। दोस्तों, ये तो बात था आपके लिए, लेकिन आप देखते हैं हमारा आज टॉपिक क्या है। Our next topic is the most important here: people as participation in the elections and electoral reforms. This is the most important here: people as a participation in elections and electoral reforms here. This is the most important. The discussion so far has been enabled us to participate the significance of election, ensuring the peoples as a participations in their democratic process. But over the years, it has been found that the election system in India needs an improvement to be make India as a truly participatory as a democracy. We shall now discuss the most notable factor that has a contribute to be ensure a people's participating in the election. The discussion will be also focus on those issues that are considered concern of the Indian election, as well as on suggested electoral reforms. This is the most important topic here, and the next topic is the most important also: universal adult franchise. The next topic is the most important: universal adult franchise here. Election play an important role primarily because of the system of universal adult franchise adopted in India just after its independence. It is interesting to be observed that in a Great Britain, the universal adult franchise was granted in 1928, nearly 300 years after the process of democratization began here. In Switzerland, the home of democracy, it was also granted as later as in 1972. In India, however, universal adult franchises become a part of the electoral process right from the beginning of our establishment as a democracy. That is what after independence. And what does the universal adult franchise mean? There is a most important question here. What does universal adult franchise mean here? Let us begin the related meaning of the concept of universal adult franchise in this context. Universal mean commonly applicable to be all person without any discrimination. Adult mean a person who is a major and not a minor. A franchise mean individual's right to be cast his hair vote. Universal adult franchise thus the mean a system in which all the adult men and women without any discrimination have a right to vote in the election. But all adults do not include the those who are the legality barrier from voting. This is important. The concept of universal adult franchise is based on the principle of political equality. One person, one vote. No one has more than one vote. It's a help to ensure the liberties of their people and helps to secure protection of rights. It is educated in so far as is evident the scope of people of participation. This is important. The right to vote is linked with the age of person. The minimum age required for the voting differ from a country to country. In most countries of our times, the voting age is 18 years. As in India, China, United States of America, and Great Britain and Russia. In a country like Iran, the minimum age for the voting is 15 years old, and while the Brazil, Cuba, Nicaragua is 16 years, and in Indonesia also, and Northern Korea and Sudan, it is 17 years. In Japan and Tunisia is 20 years, while the South Korea is 19 years. In a country such as Kuwait, Lebanon, Malaysia, Maldives, and Singapore, the voting age is 21 years. But the Uzbekistan is a voter has to have a minimum. There is an age of 25 years. There is a most important age group who are voting here. And the next year, electoral reform. Let's see electoral reforms here. Here come again, there is an electoral reformers. This is important. As we have seen the electoral system in India based on the universal adult franchise has a help of a voter not only in the choosing there is representative but also in the facilitating smooth and peaceful change of governments and replacing non-political parties or seats of political party by another. We have also observed that our elections held so far have largely been free and fair. People have participated in their election process activities, and accordingly, election has become an important part of our democratic life. And yet, there are contain a critical problem that has been to adversely is effective not only the quality of electoral process but also the functioning of democratic system. This is important, and this definitely is called the electoral reforms here. In fact, the electoral reforms has been engaging the attention of the parliament, there is a government, the election commission, the press and people for a long time. Some measures were implemented in the past to be removed, largely islances in their law, and based on the experience in the recent past. The need has been felt there are some steps to be taken quality for amendment of contain a provision of law. And there are issues like ringings of election and fake and bogus voting. Fake and bogus voting, there is the most important problems on elections. Impersonations and the violence during the elections and was the role of many and the muscles power. This is important. Intimidations of the voter, especially the people of weaker section, and the misuse of the governmental machineries, both capturing and criminalization in the both election and politics that demand immediately attention. This is important. Let's see picture on the voting time. On your screen, there is a most important picture here, polling booth. There is a person give the vote for adult franchise accordingly here. And this negative development has been discussed at a different level and the action on for the electoral reforms. It needed a lot of electoral reforms have already been to the introduced, but no system of election can ever be a perfect. In actually practice, there away come of the flow of limitation in the electoral practice. We have to be keep researching some mechanism to make an election truly free, fair, and imperials. Numerous suggestions for the electoral reforms have come from the scholar, political parties, and government is a sponsor and community and various independent sources here. This is important. And the last see here a suggestive electoral reformers is following here. A tentative list of suggestive electoral reform is flowing. This is the most important. Democratization of the electoral system we have made from time to time so as to keep the electoral system in a pace with the changing times. A change from ongoing system, priority system to some from a proportional representation system to be reduced the vote seats and imbalance sees box below here. And the functioning of political parties to be regulated in order to be ensured that they are functioning in the transparent and democratic manner. And there is a need to be adopted their expenditures as encouraged during the election. And the fourth point here, electoral law to be made more stringent and there must be a provision for harsher or punishment. This is important. And the next year, state funding of election to be introduced so as to reduce and curb election expenses. And a special provision to be made to be ensure at least one-third representation of women in a parliament and state legislature. This is important. And the role of money and muscle power to be equable during the election. This is a common here. The role of money and muscle power here. And criminalization of politicals to be stopped in the election. This is also important. Criminalization of politics. And carrying with any criminal record to be varied from the contesting election. This is impossible. And complete ban to be imposed on the use of caste and religious appeal in the election campaign. This is also a false statement because today is a maximum party use a caste and religious appealing section here, and there is a compass. This is most important here. In the box, this is the most important point here. The priority system means referred to an election won by the candidate having the maximum votes. And this voting system used at a present to elected member of the legislative assembly in a single member and multi-member contests here. And the next year, the provisional representations here in an electoral device to be ensured representation of all sections of people more or less in proportions to be their voting strength. Under this system, any group, whether it is a political parties or interest group, will be ensured representation in the proposition to be a popular votes is obtained. This important point in this box here. The Election Commission has taken several new initiatives in their recent past, a reform to be some of which have already been made above. Notable among these are is the most important statement here. Notable, there are schemes for use of state-owned electronic media for broadcasting and telecasting by political parties. This is important. And second here, restriction on the opinion and exit poll, because this poll might influence a voter. And the next year, checking a criminalization of politics. This is also important point here. And computerization of electoral. This is important, computerization of electoral rolls here. And providing the elector with their identity card. Providing elector with the identity card and simplifying there is a procedure for a maintenance of account and filling of same by candidate. This is also important point here. And the next point is also important. A variety of measures for strict and compliance of moral code of conduct for providing a level playing field to the contestant during the election. It's important. A variety of measures for a strict compliance of moral code of conduct for providing a level playing the field of contestant during the election. And as our electoral system has worked well even on the content advises to conditions and hopes are reaped that a democracy in our country is given to stay and continue to be a better. And the our peoples are they're committed to be democratic value, and there is a chance that a government will come up to people expectation. This is the most important expectation on here. So people, there is an important point here.